Hi, everyone.
Hey.
We get to see Ron.
How about that?
Wow. So Ron, what you have to learn is to look at the camera, not at your screen.
Oh, well, I'm never going to pass a screen test. I know that. Hi, camera.
Hey, Ron, this is Bill. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, I'm just sorry about the, at the last meeting. I got kind of lost because I didn't have the DLNR item in front of me, the exemption list in front of me.
Okay.
For Tiger, yeah. So sorry about that.
Well, it was not, it was not technically on the agenda, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thanks everybody. We're just gonna give everyone a couple more minutes to sign in, and I'm gonna start doing a quorum count. We'll get started in just a minute.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Well, it's 1:04. Why don't we go ahead and get started? We do have quorum. Looks like the only person we're missing is Rob. And I'm not sure if he'll be joining or not, but we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you everybody for joining. It is Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. My name's Onauna Thone and I'm the chair of the council. I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge that we have the following council members present. We have Vice Chair Mary Berger, the members Roy Abe, Stephanie Dunbar-Cole, Maka'ala Ka'amoana, Keith Kawaoka, Robin Kay, Tessie Kinnaman, Ron Terry, Mike Tulang, and Mahina Tudor on. We also have with us our Attorney General, Bill Cooper, and from OEQC, we have Les Segundo. From the Department of Land Management, we have Sandy Funn, and from the Department of Design and Construction, we have Walter Billingsley. Sandy, I think we also have Seiji Ogawa from your office, correct? Okay. And the last person that we have on is Claude, if you don't mind just going ahead and introducing yourself since we're not familiar with you. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I am with the Department of Land Management. I work with Sandy and Seiji.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Welcome, Claude. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, so did I miss anybody? Okay, I think that's everyone. Les, do we have minutes? We don't have minutes for this meeting, correct?
No.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and skip over agenda item 2. And on to agenda item 3, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Keith Kawaoka for the OEQC Director's Update.
Good afternoon, everybody. Not much to say at this point. We just finished the legislative session last month. I think I mentioned to you that the vacancies in all the departments were being preserved. However, they swept the budget, the amounts for those positions. So it's just like the current OEQC positions for the director and the planner position are still there. However, the money budget was swept away next fiscal year. Going into next session, BNF has asked all the departments, including OEQC, to look at their budgets and looking at a potential 10 15-20% reduction in their operating budget. So, and looking at my agencies, I mean, there's a lot of moaning and groaning, especially when it got to the 20% cut. I haven't looked at specifics on each one, but that's what we're being asked to do going into next session. That's all I have. If there's any questions.
Keith, this is Mary Bergere. This is not a question so much, but a new homeowner here in East Hawaii has a PhD in public health, and she's the Department of Health wants to hire her, but they can't. So she's gone to work for you as a volunteer, and that's apparently the new MO, that the state of Hawaii is asking people to volunteer in their positions, and hopefully they'll be able to pay them someday.
Yeah, there is a job freeze overall.
Right, I know. I know. I'm just verifying how it's making its full circle way into the economy and into the community. So,
Yeah, and
we're lucky to have people that are willing to do that.
Yeah, we're certainly reflective of what's going on in the economy, as everybody knows. Yeah, I think for people who have a desire to work for the state, that is a possible avenue to sort of get a toehold into the system. Frankly, there's no telling how long this thing is going to last.
Right.
And for certain types of positions, what we call method of funding, certainly the general fund positions are frozen. However, there are some positions that are both either federally funded or what we call special funded. And those we need to have approval of our respective directors to do that. For general funds, we have to get the governor to approve hiring in those positions. So it's certainly an uphill climb. And right now, the waters are still muddled, so we really don't know what's going to expect coming into the next session.
I wanted to acknowledge that Rob Parsons did join us. Hi, Rob. Thanks for joining. Keith, I don't know if you have any information on this, but, with the departure of Director Bruce Anderson as of, I believe, today, right? Is there any indication of who might be appointed to his position?
Yes. Bruce will be on till the middle of this month, which is next week. He'll be retiring. Dr. Libby Char has been appointed as the interim director. She needs to be confirmed by the Senate, of course, but she comes in with basically emergency management, medicine background. She's been with the city in that capacity a number of years. A number of us have worked with her through the past, so we hope that she'll be able to hit the bricks running, as they said.
Well, I don't think that I'll have the opportunity to cross paths with Bruce Anderson in the time, so if you just send him our thanks to the council for his support of the council, I think that would be appreciated.
Well, certainly will. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Keith or comments on his update? All right. Hearing none, I will go ahead and move on to agenda item number 4 and pass it over to Ron for the exemption committee update. And we have some action items as well.
Thank you, Nona. Yes, we had a meeting at noon today, and we had a couple informational items and some action items. I'll probably skip over most of the informational items, but just to let you know generally that we are seeing more agencies come forward and ask to have they're reorganizing their agency lists. So I've gotten inquiries from quite a few. I'm actively working with about 4 agencies right now that are not even on the agenda yet today. But you know, it's working, and we are about to send another reminder letter. That we sent one back in I think last September, about a year ago, after the rules had been updated, and we got some good response, including from some of the agencies that are here with us today, and some others that have already submitted a list. But you know, the great majority of agencies have not yet submitted reorganized lists, so we're encouraging that. So we expect even more business. You know, if we could charge people $10,000 a list, maybe we could fund our agency. But that's a joke. I'm not suggesting that. Okay. So anyway, we have a couple of action items today. I'll take them one at a time. We'll start with the Honolulu Department of Design and Construction. It's a city and county agency. They came to us quite some time ago in June, I think it was. It might have even been the May meeting with their list, and we passed it out for public review, which occurred starting in June. We have a 15-day comment period, but it's not a strict comment period. It's like if we have time to act on it within 15 days, we will. We'll let at least that much time pass, but in essence, anybody can send in a comment anytime. So this has turned into about a 4-month comment period, and we have had no comments. The Department of Design and Construction reorganized their list, and they did a great job. There was not a lot of concern. You folks approved it, like I said, for public comment back in June, and because of this and that, mainly the probably the aquarium appeal, it's taken us till now to be able to have it under consideration. So a copy of the list was provided to all of you on the agenda if you cared to peruse it and see what items were there that the public didn't comment on. But at this point, all that's left to do is to have the environmental concur or not concur. And because it's a committee recommendation that passed out, I understand that is in itself a motion, and it doesn't require a second. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So no correction. All right, it's right. If you're correcting me, you're muted. Then Chair, I guess at this point, you're the one who takes over for the voting, right? Ask if there was any discussion.
Yes, so do we have any discussion on this list from the council members? And again, the motion on the floor is to concur with the Department of Design and Construction, the reorganized exemption list.
And we also have Walter Billingsley from the Department of Design and Construction on our meeting today via phone. So if committee members have any question of him, they can go ahead and do that.
Okay. No discussion, no questions. Is that correct? Well, in that case, let's go ahead and call the question. All those in favor of concurring with the Department of Design and Construction exemption list, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? None? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, so the list is concurred with a vote of 12, which is our full council.
Okay, so now I think the remaining items for us to do are in OEQC's hands. I think OEQC puts the list on the website as a concurred list with the new date. I don't, do we put in any kind of announcement of that in the notice, Les?
Yeah, we just noticed that on the date it was concurred, so it'll say September 1st. Yeah. That it was
So you'll put an item in the environmental notice too, or just?
Yeah, we'll put an item in the environmental notice.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Great, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, our next action item is,
Ron, if I may,
sure.
to say, so Walter, it's up to you if you want to hang on for the rest of the meeting. But thank you for joining us.
I think I'll leave now, but thank you very much, everybody at OEQC that helped me out initially explaining the rules and so on. And then later on, as I got my draft list, Ron helped me out immensely by providing comments and kind of communicating with me on what we needed to do and how the process works. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walter.
And he's leaving now, I guess, but we have someone from his department that's going to come in and talk to us about lighting at some point. I had a really fascinating conversation with him. His name's Alan, I think. I talked to, and I know we're going to want to hear from him. He really knows everything about lighting, which is of interest for dark skies and seabirds. So when we get back a little bit back to normal, I was holding off until we could meet all together again, because he's got show and tell stuff and everything. But I think we're going to have to do it on Zoom. So I'll contact him again. So our next item and our only other item for action today from the exemption committee is from the Honolulu Department of Land Management, and we have Sandy Fun and Seiji Ogawa and Claude there from that department who could perhaps answer questions. Maybe Sandy would be the person to direct questions to. They're at an earlier phase of the review process. I have worked with them and suggested a few changes, which they made, and to sharpen up the list a little bit. I found a few things that I thought would improve it, and they did it. I got to say they did a good job the first time and an even better job the second time. I think it's a pretty tight list. Our exemption committee passed it out for your consideration to have released for public review. And that would be the action item that's on the floor at this point, to release it for public review. We noted a couple of typos and one or two other things that even after I had worked with the department, some of our members during their review as part of the committee noticed a few little things, but everyone agreed that it was certainly ready for public review and that we would provide our individual comments about those Manini items as part of the public review. So are there any questions or comments about that list? I'm sure you've spent a lot of time poring over it, so just let those questions come out. You don't need to be shy. So, okay. Well, some of us have looked at it for sure. We've looked at it carefully, and we agree that it's ready for public review. Maybe when it does come out, you might want to take a look. They did a good job, and they do a lot of interesting work in that department. Sandy, is there anything you'd like to say to our committee at this time?
Thank you very much. I would thank you kindly to the chair and the members of the council for considering our request. We have no questions and are very happy to move forward to the public hearing phase of this.
Okay, terrific. Onauna, maybe I'll turn it back over to you now.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Thank you, Sandy. So we do have a motion on the floor, and the motion will be to go ahead and release the Department of Land Management's draft exemption list for the public comment period. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so this the motion to go ahead and release Department of Land Management's list for publication for public comment has been approved by a vote of 12-0-0. Okay, just making a note. So thank you, Sandy, Seiji, and Claude for joining us. Did you folks have any other questions? Ron, I think you can go through the process real quick. I think after you folks had dropped from our exemption committee meeting, we don't think that this list will make it into for publication on the 8th. So it'll be published again on the 23rd, right? Is that correct, Ron?
That's correct. Yeah, the deadline for the 8th was actually yesterday. So it'll make it in the 23rd deadline. That'll start a 15-day nominal comment period, which is basically encourage people to get their comments in within 15 days. But in reality, any comments that are received before the next meeting that it's heard at, which it can't be in October because the 15 days won't have elapsed by that time, especially in time to get the comments on the agenda, which needs to be in by the 1st. So the next meeting at which we will consider the comments in the list is going to be the November meeting, the first Tuesday in November.
So that's November 3rd, just
Okay.
to give DLM the heads up of when we'll plan to bring them back.
Yeah, that's election day. So are we really going to meet that day?
You know what? We may have moved it. We might have moved it to the 10th. And Les, do you happen to have that calendar in front of you?
No, I don't. But yeah, it's a it's a state holiday, so.
So I think we might have moved the November meeting to the 10th. But Sandy will be in contact and give you folks a heads up. It'll be our November meeting.
I show it on my calendar as November 10th. So
Okay.
I think we must have talked about it before.
Right. Thank you, Robin. Okay. November 10th it is.
Okay. If you have any questions, agency folks there, please let me know. And if anything comes up later, please feel free to email the council to Les. Again, is probably the best point of contact, and he'll direct it to the right person. Fellow council members, that concludes my report. We did a little more business, but I don't think it merits your attention at this time. We have been very, very busy. It's been a busy time. Are there any comments from anyone on the council?
All right. Thanks, Ron. And DLM folks, if you folks want to hang on for the rest of our meeting, you're more than welcome to. And if not, thank you for joining us, and the council will be in touch with you folks.
Okay, again, thank you kindly to the council and chair. And I guess we'll be signing off now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Ron. So I will go ahead. We'll move on to agenda item number 5. This is the annual report committee update, and I will hand it over to Rob.
Thank you, Chair. Nice to see everybody. Nice to see you, Ron, at your face rather than that picture of a telephone. And nice to start September off with some tuba music. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's beautiful. Annual Report Committee met today. Thanks to all the members. Oh.
Yes, the music is going on.
Oh, good, Mike. Thank you. So 2 things we have to report. One is I reported to our committee, and I'll report to the full council as well, that after much effort, many months, many delays, many stop and starts, the 2019 annual report has gone to the printers. We're printing 42 copies. The final PDF will be available at the same time. So congratulations to everybody, everyone on this call, and many others far beyond had significant effort and input in it. So thank you for all the help to push it slowly but surely towards completion. I don't know if Julia has given us a date when things will be back from the printer, but I would imagine before the end of the month. And she'll be transmitting the copies to the office addressed to Les. Thanks again, Les, for all of your help on your end.
No problem. Thanks.
Second item is a discussion of projected timeline and logistics for the 2020 annual report. Well, today, September 1st, is the first day that we're really considering this because we've just been lagging behind on the 2019. So we know that our statutory deadline for submitting the report is January 31st, which means that today is day one of a 5-month window to complete things. And so we had a short meeting, 30 or 40 minutes, and did a little brainstorming, which I'll share with you from my notes. And our committee would like to invite the full council to provide their input and feedback as well. We didn't come up with anything conclusive, but I think some of what did bubble up in our committee today has relevance. And so I'll tell you what people had to offer. One thing that came forward just in the emails inquiring if we should hold a meeting was Stephanie said, you know, maybe we could report on how COVID has impacted all the agencies, you know, for better or for worse. And so that was one thing that we considered. What is the impact? And then, you know, we got back on track as far as our statutory mandate to address how county, state, and federal agencies are, how they're progressing and how they're doing on their environmental goals. And of course, we want to keep that in mind. And we had, in our preamble of this report, when we stated that it was a different approach, we said that this year and in years to come, we hope to add county and federal agencies, being that we just focused on a number of state agencies in this report. Robin said, hey, that's brilliant. You know, the whole COVID-19 thing has exposed how agencies are dependent upon each other and yet don't always have good communication or connections. And that may be one of the things that's reportable. Stephanie said maybe we could use the COVID-19 positive and negative as an umbrella to talk about the council's potential larger role in the big picture of, you know, things like food security, sustainability, larger environmental picture. And Robin gave us a little reality check. He said, you know, no director, no funds. We want to be very careful what we take on. And let's be very focused and very simple. And Stephanie said, well, what does a targeted focused report look like? And so Robin suggested perhaps just a 5 or 6 question checkbox with a tiny bit of narrative to connect it. And so, you know, we can't really depend on DOH or anybody else for funding. We don't have any more resources than we did last time. And it's, you know, it's commendable that Keith and Les and everybody got together and found us some funds that's enabling us to have a print report. To me, that's amazing that you guys went through the whole procurement process and that we're going to have something that people can hold in their hand and read this time. I'm happy about that. But I think we do have to go simple. Stephanie said, yeah, I like the Survey Monkey idea. And she felt that part of our bottleneck in what we did last time was interpreting all the data that we got from personal interviews and written reports, and that it took us months really to wrestle with that and put it in a distilled, cohesive form that we could include in the report. And I would agree with that. Roy pointed out that back in the 70s and the 80s, there were many groups and agencies that were looking at long-term environmental goals. And he says he doesn't see that kind of central planning now. So he again suggested that the council could get more involved with just kind of elucidating those goals and maybe making the connections on how they might be achieved. So the last thing that we did in our committee meeting was we agreed to meet in 2 weeks. Because we only have 5 months to work with, based on feedback that I expect we'll get in the discussion here, we're going to meet September 15th and try to distill these ideas down into something that we can bring to full council agenda at the beginning of October and start to set a firmer timeline so that, you know, with a lot of luck and some hard work from all our volunteers, perhaps we can make our deadline this year. We're certainly hoping for it. So we'll meet on September 15th, and that's all I have to report, Chair. I'm just interested in hearing feedback, and I'll take notes that we can digest when we meet again in 2 weeks as a committee. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Rob. That's, you know, sounds like you folks had a really great productive meeting. Before I went into substantive comments on the process for 2020, so you folks will be meeting on 9/15, and you'll work with Les to get an agenda out and do the proper 92 stuff that we need to do. Okay, wonderful.
Yep.
You know, I think those ideas are great. Yeah, so for perspective, this time last year, I think we were sending out letters to the five or six agencies asking to schedule interviews. We did the interviews at the end of October, early November, and we are just completing our annual report now in August of 2020. So yeah, it's you know, I swear we were just in March and suddenly it's September. I don't know how that happened, but it is where we are. So I appreciate that you folks are looking at what we can do with the annual report for this year to try and, you know, get it done in time. I like all of the ideas, and I think right now I can't say that I like anyone better than the other. I look forward to, you know, what the committee is going to bring to us after your meeting on the 15th. So I open it up to comments from others.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. That sounds great. Boy, what a reality check that we need to start the next one. Boom. Thanks to everyone for their hard work on this, and especially to Keith for finding a little change to make it happen. At some point, and I certainly don't need it now, but at some point, I would like to see the final cost for the report, because I'm wondering if we can explore the idea of some sort of a private partnership for getting it done next time. I don't know, through the chamber. I don't know. I don't know. Just, you know, we need to start looking at those kinds of potentials. Maybe some of the environmental groups that use this information, that need this information, that, you know, maybe if everybody chipped in a little, I don't know. I'm just thinking it's not going to be any easier to pay for next year than it was this year. So we need to start looking at some options early.
Yeah, and I think Maka'ala, Bill, if I'm not incorrect, you know, I think we did kind of look at this, what could we do through private donations and whatnot, and I think there are certain limits that we have to what we can accept
Sure.
For private funds. So
Sure.
Bill, do you recall what the opinion was on that?
The opinion was that we can accept it, and I don't see any problem with that. But I would say there may be an issue as to, you know, the impartiality of the report. If, you know, you're accepting from one organization that, you know, as opposed to another, you know, Chamber of Commerce as opposed to an environmental organization. So you have to bear that in mind as well.
No, certainly no quid pro quo. I absolutely, or they get to pay for it. They don't get to tell us what's going to go in it. That would be certain.
Right, but it's the appearance, you know, you have to consider that.
Yes. I get it. The other thing I'd like to say is I really hope that the format that we used is one we can use in the future. We like it. You know, yeah, I don't know how to do it, but we like it. And if it's, you know, repeatable, then we get a little value added on the work that was done this year that we did have to pay for. So that would be nice to have in our pocket. But thanks to all. My gosh, what a slog. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mary.
Maybe I wasn't paying good attention, but what was the total cost that it came to this year, Rob?
I don't know. I'll have to ask Les and Keith to report on that. We'll report back.
Do you know off the top of your head, Les?
I think it was 15,000, somewhere around there.
Okay. There's lots of organizations that have access to grant money that it's their obligation to stay chartered as an organization of their nature. To keep their charter, they have to spend money on things like this. So I think Maka'ala knows of a couple, I know of a couple. We don't want to waste this opportunity.
No, and now that we've got a fresh one in our hands, now's the time to shop it. You know, you take the product that we all like and that the state obviously cooperated on. I mean, this is a big deal. This is a good thing. You take that and you say, this is what we want to print. Costs $20K. Can you write 10 and we'll get 10 from somebody else or whatever.
Exactly.
And then we'll try to get Bill to keep us out of hot water.
Yep.
Those are great insights. Thank you, folks. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, that I think we talked about this before, but I thought the design was really great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's really nice that we got a professional look to it. I think it helps a lot in getting our message across. And, you know, Gum Design, who probably you guys never heard of before this, except for Mary, you know, it's really great because they do so much community work as well. They donate a lot of their time to community organizations and their services. So it was really great to see them earn the bid on this one fair and square. And my feeling is they probably, part of the price was essentially a discount to because this is a worthy cause. I mean, I didn't talk to them about anything at all, but I think that might be true, and which is great. I think we got a good deal, but you know, who knows the next time? That's the flip side of the coin. The next time we need to get this out, it might not be so fantastic.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when Rob sent me the report to edit, and then I got it. And when I sent my edits, then I got an email back from Julia at Gum Design. I was like, why is she contacting me about OEQC? I didn't realize they had the bid.
Yeah.
So that was great. I was really pleased. They're very, very generous people.
If I may call Robin out to maybe share his piece of cold water that I really appreciated in our committee meeting in regards to this upcoming annual report. Robin, would you be willing to share what you shared with us? Because it was really helpful for me. And this is because Mary and Maka'ala and all of you, I was right there with you in terms of thinking of the opportunity that this upcoming annual report could provide and some of these really relevant discussions that are happening statewide and on a national level in terms of tourism opening up and racial injustice and food instability. And I just really appreciated what Robin had to say. And so.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think there's wonderful ideas. We had great heat coming out of our meeting because the brainstorming was terrific. But, you know, I just think we got to be realistic. We don't have a director. We won't have a director until January at the very best. And even that's kind of optimistic. It took us over a year to do this one. We lucked out to get some resources for it. And here we are talking about fundraising again. I mean, I just think we got to be realistic, and we're not going to be able to go face to face and do the interviews. Very few people had the time to do everything that they did. Several of you guys really went, you know, way out in terms of hours contributed to do this. It's just, I mean, I just think we need to be much more realistic about what we're going to do for an annual report, given the circumstances that surround us now. No money, no director, less resources than we had when we began this project. So my thought was, as much as we would love to do something much more wonderful, that if we did, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 questions in a easily answerable style, like a Survey Monkey, and then added some narrative to it and called it our annual report, given the circumstances of COVID and where the EC is. I hesitate to see us try and bite off what we did amazingly this past year, next year.
And Robin, thank you for summarizing what you shared with the committee. I think one thing that you also suggested is that our introduction could state, this is all we can do. We have no director, we have no resources, and thus it is what it is.
Right, and turn that into as positive a thing as we possibly can. I'm not saying that it should just be 8 questions answered by 6 departments in the state. I mean, we'll need a little bit of a narrative too as well, no question. And we leave room for everyone that we ask to answer these questions if they wish to add some narrative to it. But it was just a huge responsibility for a group of volunteers to have undertaken and have succeeded as well as they did. So.
Robin,
It's
I just
because
want to
you're
remind
all very
everybody.
cool people.
Yeah. Like, we don't have a dedicated director, but we do still have Keith. So thank you, Keith, for bearing with us. I know you got a lot of other responsibilities on your plate.
I just want to say in relation to the timeline for the legislative session, like I was mentioning earlier, we are getting ready to submit our budget proposals for the next session. This so-called exercise about budget reductions, BNF will tell us what specifically we're going to be looking at going into submittals to the budget. And I'll be honest, you know, it's on a very austere side. I think everybody is looking at reducing their operating budget. No new initiatives are going to be brought forward. And as you guys know, we won't know what the budget is until legislative session ends. So I just want to caution or just remind the committee or the council that keep that in the back of your mind. I mean, I sort of agree with Robin about, what it took to get through this report. And I've looked underneath the sofa, Makala. I didn't see anything more. And in fact, we'll be fortunate just to keep the budget we have and reduce some of the expenses looking at what's going forward. So I just want to remind the committee and also the council about that situation.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you, Robin, and thank you, Keith. I'm not naive. I'm living in the middle of a very stressed community as well, and part of my Kuleana is community resilience, and it's a cold slap in the face every single morning when I get up. I do think, however, that maybe because I'm focused on resilience, that first of all, we have a statutory requirement, but secondly, people are stretched for sure, but they're working and they're hard at work, and they may be working from different environments, but they're working. And these departments, the departments that came before us today, and the exemptions committee, they're not functioning. They're functioning, and they have we need to help tell their story. And I am not suggesting, I did not, and nor am I suggesting that that we have any money to put to this. My thought is that we look for partners to do it, and if that doesn't happen, we can use the format and publish it digitally and be done with it. I think in order to be respectful of people who work for the state in these agencies, and to lift them and be hopeful and offer what we can when so many are suffering, it's incumbent upon us to do the best we can. And I just want to make sure we do the best we can. And I think we can put something out that looks good. I don't care if it's a Survey Monkey procedure. That makes perfectly good sense. I kind of like Survey Monkey, but however we do it, even if it's, 2 or 3 pages, that's fine, just so that it's something that honors the work that people are doing now, because they haven't left, they haven't stopped, they haven't given up. And the public agencies I know over here, the state agencies I know over here, like State Parks, is using this time to reset and heal and improve and make some of their facilities safer and better and take care of the environment. Using this time to do a better job of understanding our fisheries, and using this time to, take care of things that the state has wanted to do for a while and is now taken care of. So I see the other side of the coin, I guess. But on Kauai, we're certainly struggling and suffering along with everyone else. We're very dependent on the tourism dollar, but some of our state agencies are doing amazing things that they couldn't get done when they were overrun with tourists. So I'd just like an opportunity to tell that story as well.
This is Mary. When a few years ago, when I was on Annual Report, we talked about doing the report digitally because we are the Environmental Council. So why are we killing trees to put out this report when we know that many of the legislators and agencies we deliver the report to just, we're lucky if it ends up on a shelf, because oftentimes it goes straight in the circular file. And so I really think that just like we're having this meeting, we're on Zoom. A year ago, would you have even considered doing this? And think about how many times and how many things you are doing digitally now, not just meetings, but the way you're communicating. Why don't we step out there and be the leaders? And we are the Environmental Council. Let's be environmentally minded.
Yeah, and I'm one of the people that asked for 2 printed copies because
you can have mine.
Well, I'm serious, because I can't afford to print it myself, and my office is a bit of a gathering place even now, and so when I'm able, the door is open and people come in, and one of the things that's out for them to look at, and they do, is this annual report. We start talking about it, state agency, if they're not well informed, or they're not sure what, then I can use that, and have done ever since I've been on the council. I don't need many, I just need 2, but one back and one in case somebody says, may I have this? I don't like to say no. But I agree, most of it can be done digitally, but I think the gathering of information was a wonderful thing to do, and that's going to be too hard this next time. Okay, fine. Putting together all those questions and responses was wonderful, but it's going to be too hard. Okay, fine. There's lots of places we can trim this down, but I want to give those agencies an opportunity to talk about the good stuff they've done for the environment of Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Robin, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute, Robin.
Yeah, Makala, I'm sorry we're 3 islands away. I totally disagree. I think you're looking at it from the perspective of the people who will see it, and I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of people who have to put it together. And we're all volunteers, and people who put this thing together put in a lot of work to do it. It's too much. And Keith, I didn't mean to say that you weren't the director. I wasn't ignoring you. I apologize if you got that from me. I just think, yeah, there's a lot of organizations out there, Makala, that are doing wonderful things, and we can try and highlight them in some way, but not in the way that we did it this year. It's just
no, that's not what I said.
unrealistic.
That's not what I said. I specifically said not the way we did it this year. I probably said it 10 times. No, I agree.
Okay, so it sounds like we do have consensus. We realize it wasn't, a crazy effort what we went through for the 2019 annual report. It turned out to be really nice. So thank you to Rob and the annual report committee and to OEQC for procuring the funds. But recognizing where we are in our timeline and, you know, what efforts we actually can do remotely, we are going to have to trim it down in some fashion. And so, you know, again, thank you to the annual report committee for beginning that conversation, recognizing what hurdles we have and what we need to do to accomplish our goal, you know, our statutory mandate to get this in by January 31st of 2021. So for me, you know, I don't have further discussion. Like I said earlier, I'm looking forward to what the committee brings to us after the next meeting. But is there further discussion? You know, I think this was very helpful to hear from the other council members who aren't on the committee, and this will be contributing to the annual report committee's discussions at the next meeting. Okay. Thank you so much, folks. Rob, anything else from annual report committee?
Nothing else. Thanks for summarizing there. I would just say that if anybody has any discussion points that occur to them afterwards, they can contact me directly, and then I'll put together an agenda and get it to Les in time for Sunshine next Tuesday or Wednesday for our meeting on the 15th. Thanks.
And just to add to that, Rob, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think our meeting coming up here on the 15th, which again is outside of our monthly EC meeting, is going to be looking at, okay, well, what are some of those questions that we really want to pitch in a potential medium like a Survey Monkey? And so this really is the time, Maka'ala and others, for if those are those ideas that are really important to your place, these agencies, your communities, this is a great time for you to send those to the annual report. So please do.
Very well put, Stephanie. And once again, I think just direct them to me, not to a whole committee, just to me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, folks. So, you know, I do have for the next two agenda items, I had listed, you know, updates from INO and from Legislative Committee. I know there were no meetings, but I put those on there just in case, you know, something came up in between the agenda deadline and now, if those committees wanted to give an update for any reason. So first for INO, anything from you folks?
No, we were trying to work with Ron and this gentleman, Alan, on the lights, but as Ron said, we thought we would do it at an in-person meeting. But when we're not offline, I'll talk to Ron about getting the gentleman's contact, and we'll make sure we do this in the right way so that it we're respectful of what all he has to offer us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all. I don't mean to not be doing anything, but it's just.
No. I think we've had plenty.
We're getting through our Chapter 91 thing there.
Right. No, I think that's fine. And I know there is a way that via Zoom, that a presenter could share their screen. Yeah. I'm aware, you know, for the HSBA, we are planning to have a summit next month where I think we're going to have, you know, at least 100 participants and keynote speakers and breakout sessions and that type of thing. So it's not our ideal, you know, way to hold this forum, but it's certainly the technology is there where we can do it.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know how much longer you folks would want to put off Alan's presentation, especially in light of the exemption lists that have been coming through. So I'll let you folks work on that. Thank you. And then Robin, anything from Ledge? No? Okay, thank you. You know, our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 6th, same time, same place. And please keep an eye out, folks. You know, thank you for attending the meeting. Please pay attention to your emails for committee meetings as well. I believe we may be having an exemption committee for the 6th. Annual report, I'm anticipating you folks will also have another meeting on the 6th as well. Okay, Ledge, probably not. Yeah, okay, and INO maybe. Okay, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Last item is public forum. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
No, I just realized I was muted. I apologize.
Sure. No problem, no problem. Was there anything else? Kind of have public forum right now, no members of the public, but if there are other items that need attention from the council members. Any announcements, you can go ahead and make those now.
Anna, just a question.
Go ahead.
In terms of committee assignments, how does that work? If I wanted to change committees, and how does that work? Does that need to be done by the whole council, or is it just a conversation I have with you? How does that work?
No, if you want to be on another council, my understanding, and Bill, maybe you can correct me, is that I as chair, I think I can appoint people to committees. If right now Ledge is, obviously not in session. So if we can use for you, for example, if you're interested in another committee, there are definitely committees that could use the help with reviewing things, I'm sure. So, so Ron's raising his hand for exemption committee. Yeah. So can I just, okay. That's correct. Okay. Yeah.
Stephanie's chatting in that you're not going anywhere from annual report.
And Chair, at some point, we're going to convene a rules committee too.
Right, that's correct. We do need to have that. So, okay, let's come back to that. Robin, is there any particular committee adjustment?
Yeah, I thought for all the years that I've been on, I've never been involved with exemptions, and it's always been challenging. And I thought it might be really good for me to learn that part of it. But I'm going to have to get off annual report or legislative committee. I couldn't do 3, there's no way.
Sure.
So I'll be glad to help Ron if Ron wants some help.
Well, yeah, I could, Robin. I think your particular skills of writing and review would be really helpful to me right now. And honestly, even if you were only on for 6 months or something, if you needed to get back on another committee later, I think I could use your help. We have, part of the duties that I have were supposed to be split with Scott when we created the expedited process. And I could try to make Keith do it, but I don't think he's got room on his plate. And it's, Scott was a real nerd for the exemptions like I am. And although, maybe it's not your expertise, I just, I know your ability to write and pay attention to detail. And if I could have a little of your help, it'd be really helpful to me.
Sure. Yeah. If that's all right with you, Anana, I'll be glad to switch.
Yeah, that's fine with me, especially because I am on the exemption committee, but Ron is graciously not dumping more in my plate either. So I really appreciate the help. I'm sure Keith does too. Keith's got a lot going on.
And you're the best writer among us, Onana. So yeah,
I'm grateful. But no, that Robin, that's completely fine with me. If you want to switch over to exemptions, I guess now the fight's going to be clearly AR doesn't want to let you go, but nobody's held hostage, right? You want to be.
Could he toggle between legislative and exemptions because legislative is in abeyance right now?
Sure. I mean, if there's somebody else who wants to take over the legislative committee, that's fine as well too. Robin, it's really your choice. Again, nobody's held hostage to their committees. If you folks ever want to change, and at the next meeting, if we want to, do another evaluation like we did last year, just overall and see who can be on what, I'll add that to the agenda for next meeting. And sorry, go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, no. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me mess this up even more. One of the things I think we need to do as a council, and I don't know whether we need a committee for that and whether you need to set up a new committee or what, but I think it would be really wonderful if we took some time as the council and stepped back to look at where are we going. I mean, Roy raised some really good issues in the context of the annual report about the role that we could play in this in the larger community and being more proactive. And we've been limited in doing that in large part because we spent so much time on the rules, and that's done. And then the appeal got the council, really involved. And so I just think it might be time for us to do some in-house planning. What is our focus? What do we want to be, concentrating on in the context of what we're required to do? I understand that before our council yells at me for getting away from the statute. I'm not saying we become something we're not allowed to. I'm just saying that within what we're allowed to do, what is our priority and how do we want to get there? And what role can we play? And so I don't know if that's a new committee, a planning committee, or if we just dedicate a chunk of the next meeting to planning. But I don't want us to just go along without having a chance to think about that. Does that make
That's kind
sense?
of a retreat function, don't you think?
Yeah, but given Zoom, and I wasn't going to even use that word. So yeah, it is. And it'd be wonderful if you could all, we could all get together, but I don't see that happening right away.
Well, I mean, Zoom retreat.
It's just depressing, Ron, when you try to say that, because then we all think of a real retreat where we could go somewhere and we know we can't.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
Rob, I agree. I think that is a great idea. I'm going to add that to the agenda for October. I don't see why we have to wait on that discussion. And I think overall planning, yes, now that the rules are done, well, the 343 rules are done, I will highlight to everybody we did create a PIG to look at the procedural rules, which still need addressing. So I think that'll be part of our planning process. And hopefully any rewrite of those rules will be, less involved than they were the last time, but there are certainly discussions that need to be had surrounding that. So yes, I think it's a great idea. And if, no one else is opposed, we'll go ahead and add that to the agenda for October and have further discussion on that.
Thank you, Anana.
Yes, great.
I would add, oh, go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, I've been around since the 1980s, and I worked with folks that were involved in the 60s and 70s, and I did have the opportunity to go to the UH Environmental Library. They closed down the Environmental Center, but they still had some reports, and I got to go through them. It was just amazing to see how many reports were co-sponsored by OEQC, DOH, and Environmental Council and DLNR. And there was a lot of collaborative approach. I think there was a lot of vision back then. People got together, they looked at what are the environmental problems, which ones require the highest priority, what are the cost benefits of all these different environmental actions. I think nowadays we're just involved in all just day-to-day trying to survive and process permits and all of that. Back then there was real vision. They really looked at the overall. It was like a holistic approach to things, and I thought that was very helpful. And there was a lot of good that came out of it. Maybe less was still around, or it was around back then, but there was a real difference back. I guess that was the environmental movement in the 70s, Clean Water Act, and so on. And we had a lot of funding for research, and there was a lot of good research done, and a lot of good policies that came out of it. Water quality standards and all kinds of planning reports, and even had a study on carrying capacity. And right now we're at a crossroads. We have limited funding, we have opportunities to change direction, and so on. So, I know it's not necessarily the duty of the Environmental Council, but and OEQC, but I think we could do a lot of good. And even the annual report, it's not just how the report looks, but it's the content. What can we do to really help things progress and spend our environmental dollars in the best possible way? Anyway, just a comment.
Thanks, Roy. Stephanie, you had something?
Yeah, just adding to that, Roy, and thank you for that perspective. I think what we're talking about here is a strategic planning session for the EC, and completely support that. And I'm wondering though, to make us more efficient with our time, if there are any resources within DOH perhaps.
Steph, you froze.
But I don't mean that. Are there, who's going to be facilitating this basically? Are we going to do this internally? I don't want to, none of us want to put anything more on anyone else. So in an effort to not dump this on you, Onauna, or others, I'm wondering what resources may exist out there that we could tap into to make this strategic planning session worthwhile and effective for us.
Well, I guess before going on to do we need to reach outside of the council? I mean, do we need to do that? I would be hesitant to inquire about other resources if that's not something that we need to do. So your point is very much appreciated, understood, and I guess what I was envisioning when Robin brought it up was just that we would have, you know, more time to discuss it at a future meeting amongst ourselves to kind of come up with that direction. I don't know. I at least for me, I didn't envision that we would have, you know, kind of bring in an outside facilitator or whatnot. But if that's
Yeah,
what you have in
Anana,
mind,
I agree. I would see, in my mind, the way this would work, at least in the beginning, is if you put aside an hour in our agenda for next month, and the goal of that hour would be to, what are the questions we want to answer? I don't think we have to jump into this and do a full-on strategic plan and get, you know, a facilitator quite yet, because I don't think we know what the questions are yet and what our options are. And we have to function within it, within the statute, right? I mean, we can't just, you know, decide to be what we'd all love to be, I suppose. But so I think if we could spend an hour just targeted and raising the questions that need to be answered, or thinking about what are the different options for us within the context of the statute, that'll be a good start. And then if we need a facilitator, we can try and find somebody to do that. Or to go to Ron's idea and try and set up a separate, I don't know how you do this within the sunshine, but set up a separate retreat for this. But I think your idea was right. At the next meeting, let's set aside an hour just to talk about strategic, you know, planning, if you will, and try and come up with some next steps for us.
okay, thanks, Robin, for clarifying that. And Stephanie, it's still a great idea. I like this kind of more two-step with starting with smaller first and figuring out what we want to do. And then if we need to, then we can go beyond, you know, asking DOH for further help if we need it.
Sounds good.
Okay, Ron, go ahead.
You know, I second what Robin said about starting out small with an hour session would be great. And I like the idea of questions, coming up with questions. I have one right away that I know. I'm going to save it. I'm not going to talk about it now, but I have one that I think is really important. And I think our mission is pretty, you know, I mean, we can stay within our mission and be pretty broad. We're supposed to report on the progress of the state towards its environmental goals, right? That's our job, is to monitor and report on that. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, and we also have the responsibility to be listeners and purveyors of what we hear back to the council. And there's a lot of opportunity in that as well. You know, it's something that Scott focused us on in the rules process he set up, was going to every community and listening to what they had to say. So, you know, there's a huge opportunity and responsibility there. And again, I just think we need to ask the questions that are in front of us and see if we can come to some preference on focus.
Okay, I think that discussion is going to take a good bit of time, at least an hour at the next meeting. So we'll certainly start there, and then we can look forward from there as to what next steps we'll need to take. You know, and just talking about things that we had discussed previously. One of the things that the council had kind of set out as a goal for 2020, which, you know, we've had to put on hold, was, for example, helping OAQC with further guidance on the new rules, including, you know, cultural impact state assessments, right? So that's one of the things to keep in mind. I mean, even that in and of itself it's a long lead item. So those were the types of things that we had said in the past we were going to do. So keeping that in mind, just so everybody can kind of go back in your memory file cabinets before the next meeting and pull out the things that we said we were going to do and see if it's still something that we can do given this new format of how we're meeting. Okay. Anything else in the public forum? Announcements or things that we should be thinking about for the next meeting? No? Okay, well, Steph, looks like you're in your new place. Welcome to Oahu. I think you're living here full time now. Sorry about that.
Nope, we're back on Molokai.
Oh, you're back on Molokai? Oh, okay, sorry. I was like, it looks like a new room. Okay,
That's a longer happy hour discussion.
okay, sorry. But okay, well, I just wanted to thank everybody again. We all had really productive committee meetings and a full council meeting today. And thanks again, Keith and Les, for helping out with completing the annual report. I know we're really happy to get that off our chest for the next couple of months until we get going on the next one. For everyone except for Ron, Robin, and Maka'ala, we will be meeting again after this via a separate link. Is it a separate link, Les? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and I'm going to adjourn this meeting. It's 2:13 p.m. And thank you, everybody. And I will see everybody but Ron, Robin, and Maka'ala in just a minute.
Mahalo,
Bye.
Chair.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
thank you.
Mahalo.
No, this is Mike. I'll be